Vive le Fallujah, folks! Of all the predictions I've made in my adult life, I have never wanted to be wrong more than in predicting the indolent endgame for the French election. With France averaging a terror attack per week in the closing days of the vote, some argue this was France's chance at a Brexit moment, a sentiment I cautioned against at the time. And sadly, when the white flags and the sea of soft cheese had parted, there was just one winner, the status fucking quo. I made my prediction that Nepal would fall short fairly early, but solidified it after the first round of voting for one reason and one reason alone. The first round was conducted in the shadow of Islamic terrorism committed by refugees, no less. Yet despite the so-called moderate candidate greeting the multitudes of mustachioed Muslims with a deferential "table for 2.5 million, monsieur," the walking white flag still fucking won. You might as well attach red and blue strips of Velcro to the French flag at this point. I struggled to point this out to those optimistic of a Nepal upset the night before the election by framing it as the following. Think about it. If the streets of France can literally erupt into hails of refugee bullet spray hours before both elections, and the incumbent globalist dope fuck plows on regardless, fuck the formality of an election, let's call the European Union what it is. One-party rule. And if that's the case, the message here is resoundingly clear. It's our party, and we'll die if we want to. This is hardly a new look for the EU either. There's no left-right paradigm in Western European politics. Look no further than the early 2000s, when Italy's election of a prime minister the EU publicly decried as too conservative had them doing more saber-rattling than Michael J. Fox in a San Andreas fencing competition about either removing Italy from the Security Committee or from the EU outright. Mind you, it didn't ultimately amount to a goddamn thing, but it's the sentiment that's caustic. They were holding court on Italy. Fucking Italy's ability to commune with the fellow Eurotrash Union for merely electing someone who represents the opposite end of their political persuasion. You'd need an enema to brainwash these fuckers. Having once stated this fact, let us not cast ourselves in bronze in the halls of hypocrisy by failing, much like a certain American political party this past November, to acknowledge the flurry of flaws in the counter-candidate. Marine Le Pen was unlikable. She sweats condescension. I've seen less punchable faces on Rock'em Sock'em robots. Fuck, much like the living shade known as Shrillery, she even had a last name with more baggage than the autistic mask salesman from Zelda. Not that Hillary wouldn't find plenty in common with her scandal-ridden pseudo-male counterpart Philippe Philop over there. In short, there was no real alternative in this election. There was socialism, and there was socialism with immigration laws. But, I mean, can you really blame the French given their past? You put extremist Muslims with chicken turbans on one side, and a government with national and socialist in the title on the other, they're not going to know who to surrender to. If there's a cold comfort for supporters of Marine Le Pen, it's that you didn't lose your country today. You lost it decades ago. France is so deep down the Marxist mud hole that this election, widely portrayed in the media as the starkest contrast between two candidates in the last quarter century of French politics, distilled to its essence, amounts to a choice between globalist or nationalist flavors of authoritarian socialism. I've made more meaningful choices at Baskin-Robbins, folks. So the next time the bodies of French children litter the streets, the next time the shooting starts and you're powerless to return fire, having long since allowed yourself to be disarmed by jackbooted bolos decades the fuck thence, don't hash a tag, don't march in the streets, don't lob flaming debris at a police force you neutered to nothing while Ferdinand Fox still walked the fucking earth. Take a deep, bracing breath of Franco-Belgian BO and tell yourself, I voted for this. And then lie in it. And don't give me this "you're inviting terrorist attacks" horse shit. If predicting an attack in the Croissant Caliphate is inciting violence, predicting a sunrise amounts to pyromania. Francophile that I am, even I can acknowledge that France died before I was fucking born. Today was merely the candlelight vigil. In the plus column, if you need a light, I'm pretty sure Ahmed over there has one. Fringe benefit of being tacitly at war with a culture that has yet to perfect the fucking time charge. Rome may not have been built in a day, folks, but as France is about to discover, it was certainly burnt in one. I'm Razor Fist. Au revoir, Perry.